Hey traders, it's John Fortune here with this week's Weekly Forex Forecast for the 9th of September to the 13th of September 2019. As always, we're going to start off by looking at the US dollar index and oil before running through a number of markets, looking at the key levels of support and resistance in the process. I'm also going to be highlighting some of the targets that we're going to be looking for in the coming week and also in the weeks ahead. So I hope you're having a great weekend, guys. Let's jump over to the charts and see where the money is this week. As always, we're going to start off with the US dollar index, and we're going to give the US dollar index a strength rating to give us a guide on the dollar pairs that we'll be looking at. Last week, we did trade into the target set from last week at the 99.37 to the pip, and we declined from this area, trading back down below the 98.86, which we highlighted as an important level. In last week's video, we highlighted this as the start of the 2017 bear market. So we took out the target, and we reversed and closed the week back down below the 98.86. What this means is now we're below the 98.45 as well, and we're above the 97.44. The US dollar is actually in a near-term range. It's actually corrective. So we're going to go into next week with neither a bullish nor a bearish bias on the dollar index. We're going to go into next week with a neutral bias on the dollar index, as this could go either way next week. And what it means is we're likely to see a number of currencies stronger than the dollar next week and a number of currencies weaker than the dollar next week. So we're going to be trading the markets on their own merits without a strong bias in the dollar one way or the other. So next market we're going to look at is crude oil. Now, last week we highlighted 57.19 as an area to look for a pullback in crude oil. We did tag this level last week, and we did bounce from this level last week. So very simply put, going into this week, this is now a great place to start to look for those bearish setups. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside in the target set at the 50.42. So next market we're going to look at is euro dollar. Now, last week we highlighted two key levels, the 1.0951 and the 1.10520. We took out the target set from last week, the 1.0951, and we bounced and we retraced. We spent the week coming all the way back to the key area of broken support, turning resistance highlighted last week at the 1.10520. This is now a great place to start to look for bearish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating shorts back down towards the next key area of support to the downside in the target set, the 1.0951. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside in target 2 at the 1.0775. So next market we're going to look at is pound dollar. Now, last week we had this kind of whipsaw to the downside, this kind of V-shaped reversal in the pound dollar, and this was based on the ongoing Brexit negotiations. So very simply put, going into next week, we are looking for further advances to the upside in pound dollar. If we can get a pullback, as we're very close to the target, so if we can get a pullback for better risk to reward, and potentially if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance, turning support at the 1.21650, this would be a great place next week to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside in the target set, at the 1.2373. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside in target 2, at the 1.2610. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar Japanese yen. Now, we start the week above a key area of broken resistance from the past, looking to turn support at the 106.50. If we can get a pullback, and if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance, turning support at the 106.50, this is going to be a great place next week to start to look for those bullish setups. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside in the target set, the 107.69. So next market we're going to look at is Aussie dollar. Now, we start the week above a key area of broken resistance from the past, looking to turn support at 0.6788. If we can get a pullback, and as always, preferably if we can come back and retest broken resistance, turning support at 0.6788, as this will give us the best risk to reward. This is going to be a great place next week to start to look for those bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish setups in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance, the upside in the target set, at the 0.6903. So next market we're going to look at is New Zealand dollar. Now, the New Zealand dollar is still structured to the downside despite the neutral US dollar. This means we're primarily focused on bearish setups going into next week in New Zealand dollar. If we can get a pullback in the New Zealand dollar and we can retest broken support, turning resistance at 0.65080, this would be a fantastic place next week to start to look for those bearish setups. And if we get the right kind of bearish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set, the 0.6238. And as always, if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2, the 0.6128. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar Swiss franc. Now last week we highlighted the 0.98150 for you to look for a pullback towards the broken resistance turning support in this area. We did get a pullback to this area and we did test it and bounce from this area at the 0.98150. So very simply put, going into next week, we're still looking for further advances to the upside and bullish formations and patterns in the US dollar Swiss franc. If we can get another pullback, and again, for anybody not involved from last week, if we can get a pullback and a retest of broken resistance, turning support at 0.98150, this will once again be a great place to start to look for those bullish setups. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set, the 0.9975. And you can see above here we have a secondary target at the 1.0000. There is not going to be enough room to trade in between these levels. So the way we would look at this next week, very simply put, is a conservative target or a more aggressive target, depending on your risk appetite. So next market we're going to look at is US dollar CAD. Now last week we traded into the target set at the 1.3355 and we had a big sell-off from the target set last week. We start the week below a key area of broken support from the past, already turning resistance once at the 1.3225. If we can get a pullback, and preferably if we can retest broken support, turning resistance once more, this is going to be a great place next week to start to look for those bearish formations and patterns. And we're going to be looking at initiating shorts down towards the next key area of support to the downside and the target set at the 1.3110. And if we can get a break through here, we're going to be looking down towards the next key area of support to the downside and target 2 at the 1.3038. And last but not least, we have gold. Now, last week we highlighted the 1504.67 as an area to look for a pullback in gold. We did get this pullback and a test of the 1504.67. We're looking for a reversal pattern in this area. We're looking next week for bullish formations and patterns. And if we get the right kind of bullish formations and patterns in this area, we're going to be looking at initiating longs up towards the next key area of resistance to the upside and the target set at the 1589.90. So that is it from me for this week, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, please let me know by liking, sharing and subscribing. A big thank you to everyone who does that on a regular basis, and a big thank you to everyone who has subscribed to the channel so far. I want to wish you all a fantastic weekend, and I want to wish you all a profitable week next week. The only thing left to say, guys, is take care and don't forget to trade safely.